Hi there, it is our honor to present our project here with all of you, the data visualization analysis of Hong Kong's 21st century crime and unnatural deaths. Our project aims to find out the factors that can reflect the local criminal characters and tendencies. There are 7 dashboards with 26 graphs used to show the conclusions. The statistics of crime rate and unnatural deaths in the past 2 decades are visualized, and the demographic characters are identified. Figures from 18 Hong Kong districts are cross-checked to reflect the differential conditions. The analysis draws an overall picture of the current Hong Kong social security condition and brings us closer to the nature of this critical problem. We will present our findings from 3 chapters below.
Well, let's start with the first chapter. This project is based on crime rate in Hong Kong in the 21st century. Graph 1 shows a map of the trend growth of the crime population base and growth rate. And we can see that the trend is generally decreasing, although it entered a period of fluctuation starting in 2008. 2013 reaches a maximum of 0.87 and then began to decline, remaining at a stable level of about 0.3. Graph 2 is a map comparing the number of different types of crime in different countries. For example, Canada and some European countries are more prominent in sexual violence crimes. Graph 3 compares the total number of crimes according to the crime base of the map. For example, selecting the type of robbery crime shows Mexico and the United States, who have a much higher number of robbery crimes than other countries. Graph 4 is a global comparison based on the crime rate per 100,000 population in 2020. And from the graph, we can see that India has the highest crime rate in the world, which can reach the 48.8. When taking the crime rate of Hong Kong, for example, 0.29 in 2020, Hong Kong is at the bottom compared to other countries. Hong Kong is one of the safest regions in the world. In dashboard 2, we have an assumption that both suicide and crime rates are indicator of social emotional stability. There should be a positive correlation between those two rates. The data supports our assumption. The two trends are highly similar. However, we found an exception in 2003 when the crime rate decreased, while the suicide rate increased. Graph 2 depicts the number of suicide deaths in Hong Kong during the period 2000 to 2020, and the number of suicide deaths reached a peak of 1,212 in 2003. We attribute this to the impact of SARS as an extreme social event. Graph 3 shows the global suicide rate from 1985 to 2016, which can help users better understand the distribution of suicide rate around the world. Graph 4 shows the comparison of physical and mental health and suicide rate for different countries around the world. And we can see the country comparison of suicide rate for different gender groups by adding a gender filter. The conclusion of comparing dashboard 2 with dashboard 1 is that Hong Kong has a low crime and a low suicide rate, representing a relatively healthy society, and none of the other iconic countries selected in the list can surpass Hong Kong. Okay, and then let's look at dashboard 3. We also want to know if there is a relationship between crime rate trend and Hong Kong economic development and Hong Kong police resources. Graph 2 shows the data trends of Hong Kong's police strength and fiscal revenue for the period 2000 to 2020. And we can find that there is no significant relationship between Hong Kong police resources and crime rate trends, which is inconsistent with our assumption. Graph 3 shows the trend of GNI and growth rate in Hong Kong. From the comparison of Graph 1 and Graph 2, we can find that the trend of GNI and crime rate shows a significant negative correlator until 2011. The years of negative growth, for example, 2001, 2002, and 2009 can correspond to the year of growth in crime rate. However, However, the crime rate increased in 2013 and 2018 cannot correspond to any clear signal from GNI data. Therefore, we can conclude that economic development has less impact on crime rate nowadays than at the beginning of the 21st century.
At the demographic characters, the rationale between gender, age, and types of crime are revealed in this chapter. Dashboard 1 in Chapter 2 analyzes the criminals' distribution by gender. It compares male and female arrest numbers to draw the conclusions. It is widely accepted that men are more likely to get involved in criminals than women, but how much is the difference? Graph 1 shows a clear downward trend in the total number of arrests from 2007 to 2021. The total number of arrests in 2020 is only 69% of the number in 2007. From Graph 2 and Graph 3, we can see that with 54% of Hong Kong's population is female, while only 28% of the total arrests are contributed by female. Male is almost 3 times more likely to commit crimes compared to the females. Graph 4 uses bar charts to identify the gender factors in the contribution to the overall arrest numbers. In 2007, male criminals versus female was 2.94 to 1. In 2020, this ratio dropped to 2.43 to 1. With both genders' criminal rates dropping, the number of male criminals shows greater decline tendencies than female in recent years. Dashboard 2 analyzed the criminals' distribution by age. Put Graph 2 and 3 side by side. We can see that 92% of the Hong Kong population is over 21 years old. However, the criminal rate of this age group only occupies 84% of the total arrest number. It indicates the teenagers in Hong Kong has a higher rate of criminal than the adults. We then filters the total arrest number and crime types data to age distribution. The criminal ratio shows a differentiated character among different age groups. For age group 10 to 15 and age group 16 to 20, the crime rates dropped 76% and 74% separately in the past 15 years. However, for age group over 21, the ratio only dropped by 21%. This significant reduction in juvenile crime, to our analysis, is attributed by the Hong Kong's government's prevention efforts. Some criminal types also demonstrate strong pattern distribution among different age groups. By sorting the scattered chart by age, we can see that, compared to other age groups, Group 10 to 15 has a higher rate in arson and indecent assault. Group 16 to 20 has a higher rate in serious drug offense and lawful society offense and wounding. Group over 21 has a higher rate in deception, fraud, and forgery.
Now turn to the crime type. The graph above shows the total number of crimes committed each year by all genders and the respect proportions of violent and non-violent crimes. The graph shows that the overall number of crimes has decreased slightly from a total of nearly 42,000 in 2007 to nearly 29,000 in 2021. And at the same time, the proportion of violent crime is gradually decreasing. It has dropped from 10,703 to 5,657. From the graph, we can conclude that the total number of crimes and the number of violent crimes are gradually decreasing. And the bar at the bottom left shows the proportion of violent and non-violent crimes in male and female crimes, respectively, where the ratio of violent to non-violent is 23 and 9 for males, and that of females is 9 and 2, where the total number of crimes for males is much greater than for females, about 3 times as many. And from the bar graph, we can see that the proportion of violent crimes for males is gradually decreasing over time. So we can find the reductions in violent crime among males over time has brought the overall crime time closer to no violence. Then at the bottom right, there are two ring charts. The larger outer ring shows the proportions of violent and non-violent crime, while the small inner ring shows the specific types of crime and the proportions. But the exact figures change when we click on the categories in the outer rings or select the small pie charts in the graph above. When we select the small pie chart above, we can see that the proportion of violent crime has dropped from nearly 24% in 2007 to nearly 19% in 2021. When we select the individual violence or non-violent crimes, we can see that the top 3 violent crimes and other types of crimes, like this, which accounts for the largest proportion of violent crimes, change from serious assaults and wanderings and other types to serious assaults and wanderings and criminal intimidations. When we select the non-violent types, it changed from the shop theft, other crimes, and serious drug offenses to the other shop thefts, other crimes, and the deception.
In Chapter 3, we mainly focus on the haunted houses among the 18 districts, as we figured it may indicate the public security situation in Hong Kong. The haunted house map plot at the top left illustrates the number of haunted houses among the districts. By just looking at the map plot, we can see that Guantang has the most haunted house and Islands has the least haunted houses. The population density bar chart at the bottom left shows the population density by districts. Based on the plot, we can see that Guantang has the most population density. The population bar chart at the bottom illustrates the population of different age groups by districts. Guantang, Shatian, and Yunlong are the top 3 districts with the largest population. Interestingly, compared with the population density bar chart on the bottom left, we can see that although Shatian and Yunlong have the 2nd and 3rd place in population, but in population density, they rank nearly at the end. Now, let me have my teammate to talk about the rest of the plots.
The social statistical data map plot at the top right shows some data of Hong Kong that are highly relevant to economic conditions and people's livelihood, like living area and land price. We want to reveal some associations between these indicators and crime. By changing the year and the type of indicator splitter, we are able to see the changes of the real estate development in the 18 districts across the years. The social statistic data bar chart at the bottom right shows the above indicators from another perspective. As we change the splitter in the social statistical data map, this bar chart changes accordingly, allowing us to get a cleaner sense of the quantity difference among types of houses. Moreover, this chart shows the proportion of haunted houses over total numbers of houses by district, which is a more accurate indicator because it takes both haunted house and other types of houses into consideration. We can easily find that Guantang has the most haunted houses with a relatively top rank in population density too. If we refer to the stock of permanent quarters, we could find a consistency in the patterns. Of course, that may not make a lot of sense because with common sense, it's very likely if one place has many houses and many people living there, the amount of haunted houses will be positively correlated. So we should explore further. We could select different measures with patterns changing over time. If I select the ratio of haunted house and population, we can see there does exist a darker color or say higher proportion Guantang. So it's very likely there'll be some interesting reasons for a higher probability of murder in this place. We can select other measures to see if there are special patterns, or we can refer to the stacked bar chart below and do comparisons between indicators to see if some of them contribute a greater effect. Such analysis can also be done in other indicators we offered, like residential plots with constant commercial works, and so on.